Happy Thursday, everyone. I'm Jeff Sangpil with KeyCode Media. I'm the Chief Technologist here, and we're here to talk about SNS Nomad remote workflow for creative teams, and we'll go over a few things about remote editorial solutions first. Remote editorial options that are available out there to everybody. First of all, there's remote control. Then there's edit available in the cloud. And then there's project consolidation to hard drives. And then editing with proxy editing, perhaps with a direct push-pull from your facility. So on the remote control side, there's a few solutions out there, some that are okay, some that are not so great. First one is we've been having a lot of success with is a remote control via VPN. If you're using a something like TeamViewer or LogMeIn, these tools are designed for IT support, so they're not really made for remote editorial options. So there are a number of solutions out there that will do the trick. Teradici, HP, RGS. So the good on remote control is generally it's affordable. There's pro-grade collaboration over your VPN. There's multi-display support if you need it, and it uses your existing hardware. The bad is it's dependent upon internet speed. If everybody starts watching Netflix in the back of the house, you could have a less than optimal solution. It's going to require IT to set up your VPN, and full frame rate is not supported in the Mac OS on the sender side. So you will have to, for an editorial solution, cross over to Windows temporarily. So what we're looking at here is it's available on the Windows OS. It's available on all NLEs except for Final Cut Pro X. That's only on the Mac side. So editing in the cloud, that's where you upload all your media to the cloud and begin to edit there. A lift and shift workflow. There are a number of options out there, like Bebop and some others. There are a number of issues there that can pop up. The good side is it's a full cloud-based workflow. Everything's up there, everything's able to work, people are able to collaborate. So you're able to do online editing, collaboration on your projects, real-time client review or over-the-shoulder watching an editorial piece in action. There's very, very detailed permission and profile settings. The bad, some NLEs require a proprietary solution, and your cloud storage costs are metered. And again, the sender is going to have to be a PC. You cannot virtualize the Mac OS. So this will be under Windows OS or Linux if you're running something like Resolve. So NLEs, Adobe and Resolve work fine in this sort of edit in the cloud piece. So the other piece is project consolidation to hard drives. Take home proxy media on your hard drive. So the simple way to do that is, let's consolidate everything. Grab your system, take it home. You've got your media, you've got your system, off you go. So that's the piece where you're simply putting everything on the hard drive and then taking it home. The neat thing about Nomad, which we're going to be talking about in just a bit, is it handles that front-end loading of the projects you need. So the good piece on that workflow is it's plug and play for editors at home. There's no need for an editor to have to use new software or a new platform. You take your edit bay from work home. The bad issues you can run into, sometimes there's some user error, relink issues to local media, got to move stuff around to get it to come online. Sometimes you need staff to be on site to get everything loaded up and to continue to feed the machine. You may not have all of your materials with you for the next show. The editor is still going to have to pick up and drop off a hard drive. Workflow is semi-collaborative because you've got you're not actually working on your shared project necessarily, so you can run into some issues. Good thing there also is Windows and Mac, whatever the machine is, whatever the NLE is, it'll work. So the other piece that you can run into is a proxy edit, which is a direct push-pull from the facility. So it's the same sort of concept as loading everything to a drive. It's just you're using your VPN to collect everything on the facility side, put it somewhere, and then move it to home via the VPN. So virtually creating that drive push. So that's where you got your facility, and you got the fun arrow that goes into Share Browser that collects everything. Nomad collects everything, Share Browser doesn't, and then it's able to push down to your house, and then you get to work. So the good on that, you can access all your facility media via the browser. Proxy files are small, not that much overhead to move stuff around. You can take your edit bay from home, from work to home. Very, very low internet requirements at home. You can do your downloads of material in off hours when the kids aren't watching, Netflix or attending school. The bad can be it's craft editing only. It's proxy, so you're not necessarily going to finish in that workflow. Steve will talk about some finishing options as well. Relinking to high res will require some training on the part of personnel. OS, Windows, Mac, not a problem. Any NLE, not a problem. So let's toss it over to Steve and have him go into the various details about Share Browser. If I can figure out how to stop my share. Well, again, Keycode Media, we do all the things: AV, digital signage, broadcast, production, and the stop share button is missing. 1 second.
At the top, Jeff.
Yeah, my cursor disappeared. There we go. Steve, the floor is all yours.
Hi, guys. And thanks so much, Jeff, and thanks to Keycode for having us on today. We are going to be reviewing Nomad, which is a new remote editorial utility that SNS released in light of everything that's going on. One thing we were able to do by owning our file system and owning our software and developing all of our own software was provide a solution very quickly for the current situation, and hopefully one that has value going on, as remote editorial may be here to stay, as there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding what's happening. So my name is Steve McKenna. I'm the Director of Sales over here at Studio Network Solutions, and I'm really excited to kind of take you through what we've done. And for those of you who already have EVOs, how you can leverage the product even without this new utility to provide some remote collaborative workflow. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with SNS. Just know that we're here to serve you. What you have in an EVO today, if you have an EVO, and if you don't have an EVO, what it takes to get one, how we can leverage some existing tools, both Share Browser, our media asset management system, and Slingshot, our automation and API, to accomplish workflows today, and then also the new Nomad utility and how kind of that works to be able to use craft editorial, to be able to move even source material over a VPN, and to really leverage the internet when it's appropriate. And then we'll go into your questions here at the end. So moving on down the line, first and foremost, what's most important right now is that we all kind of band together. We're all coming under these shelter-in-place orders. We're all coming under a lot of stress trying to get projects out. I think what we've seen so far is the first reaction to all of this was really to grab drives, get them home, and get working on the projects that had immediate deadlines. Eventually, the amount of space on those drives is going to run out. The footage we have isn't going to be available. So now we're going to get into, as this drags on, unfortunately, the next phase of how do I get that next project? How do I amalgamate media? How does my production crew get out and do things? And Nomad's going to be a great way to help with that. Some things we're doing right out of the gate. Normally with a server install, there's some configuration time, there's building a RAID, there's kind of prepping things. SNS has always offered a custom fee for that. We're waiving that entirely. So we can ship units directly to an editor's house. Keycode can certainly help if IT has a VPN set up, get these things configured remotely. They ship directly from our factory. Our guys are wearing appropriate PPE. The only ones in the office right now are the build guys, QC, and they're practicing appropriate social distancing as directed by the CDC. So even if you're at home, you can't get into the office, but that VPN is set up, you can get a small desktop unit from us to get these remote workflows going and get it going. So if there is someone at the office, we can get into a bigger system and start leveraging more and more of the footage that's already available that would normally be reserved within your facility. We're providing Nomad free of charge for any existing EVO clients, and we're making sure it comes with even our most entry-level products to keep the cost of entry low. So we'll take a look at what that is, and what we're really trying to do here is make sure that our clients, as well as any new clients, can stay productive and most importantly, stay employed. I mean, this morning, 6.6 million people filed for unemployment last week. We want to make sure that messaging is important, communication is important, more content is being generated than ever. We want to make sure you guys can participate in that and stay productive. So we can help get you working remote. And there's a couple of ways we're going to do that. First and foremost, a brief review of the EVO solution. SNS has been around for 21 years. We've been building shared storage for media creation, content creation, video, audio, AV. And at its core, EVO has always been a very high performance shared storage solution to allow us in facility to stream media, even at very high resolutions in real time, to multiple editors. Over the past several years, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, we've been really adding workflow tools to the systems, whether that be NLE integrations, panels to allow you to search the asset management system native inside of Premiere or Final Cut, file automations to alleviate the burden of file management from the editors, to keep those content creators creating content as opposed to managing files. All of our software is free in unlimited fashion. There are no per seat license fees. There are no ongoing subscription fees. They don't turn off if you don't renew your support contract. They continue to work. You own this software. You own this hardware, which is very important in today's kind of rental monthly subscription world. So how we can use Share Browser, which is the media asset management piece of the EVO, for business continuity right now, without Nomad, without anything. If you have an EVO and you have a VPN, you can use Share Browser because the software is free. You can install it on your home computer, even if you don't grab your workstation from the office. You can be searching content, you can be organizing content through the web app or directly in your production application. This obviously gives you access to the entire library of data back at the facility that you have permission to. You can have custom metadata fields for review and approval. You can ask for review, you can ask for approval checks, you can send links back and forth as long as you're connected to the VPN. You can organize collections of data we call bins. This works on Mac, Windows, and Linux. And it looks and feels, as you'll see here, very much like the Mac Finder or the Windows Explorer, the column view. So what's really important right now, if we do have to shift for new clients into using something like this, is that there is not a lot of learning curve. If you can work your home computer, if you can work your workstation at the office, sorry guys. If you can work your workstation at the office, you're going to be able to work Share Browser. Everything is a right-click contextual menu, a drag and drop. You'll notice down the left-hand side there, we don't just index and give you access to our storage, but to any storage that exists in your network. So whether you have EVO today or you have some other piece of storage that you've been using, EVO is going to be compatible and you're going to be able to leverage these tools going forward. So something we released 2 years ago now and has been very successful for our clients is Slingshot. So EVO has something called a RESTful API, which you can get down and dirty on the IT side if you want to write something called a JSON script and things like that and be very technical with it. But the real power of Slingshot is the ease of use of the user interface that it provides. So whether we want to set up watch folder automations or transcode jobs to prep deliverables to H.264 or to MPEG, or even use Slingshot to actually remotely grab files from an editor's workstation who's not in the facility. If I'm out and I have to go shoot, I'm news gathering, I can have EVO and Slingshot schedule a copy overnight for my source material to get back to the facility and become available for my teammates and my other remote editorial clients from that side. We can use Share Browser inside of Adobe, as I said, inside of Final Cut, and then we can also use aliases. Aliases actually inside of the asset management interface allow us to create preset automations so that if I do need to move a file somewhere quickly and ad hoc, not within a watch folder environment, I can simply right-click and create an automation that's pertinent to my job. So if I'm the editor and I'm submitting to a producer, the file will move. The producer will be alerted via email that I've delivered that file. They can take a look. They can do review and approval from anywhere in the world, leveraging a VPN. We can also use Dropbox, Amazon, Azure to remotely sync disparate sites. So if you have an S3 bucket, if you have Azure on the back end, EVO can be set up to send files into the cloud and then automatically download on the other side. You can even host Dropbox sync folders on the server should you put it in facility. So if we have multiple editors just trying to share source material or proxies through Dropbox, this is a nice way to get that scheduled and to make sure all of that content that they're out creating comes back to our facility and is protected, by RAID, indexed, tagged, and made accessible to the other editors as well. One of the really important things right now, as people are kind of scrambling for an answer, especially for our government clients who are being forced to move at lightning speed in a very uncertain time, is that EVO is TAA compliant. So if we need to come into a government facility, EVO is made in the US, it's secure, it's protected. We have gone through all of the compliance ratios for that. So anyone who's looking for an answer and needs an answer, we don't want to throw security out to panic right now. We want to make sure that what we do today isn't going to cause us problems later. So we don't want to just act in the heat of the moment. So as Jeff highlighted here a minute ago, there are certain challenges with remote workflows. There's a reason we weren't all working from home 3 months ago. Those challenges can be latency. They can be reliability of the internet, obviously security and permissions for taking content off site that is the property of the studio. And also timeliness, how quickly can we deliver those files? None of these challenges have abated in the intervening months here. In fact, many of them have gotten worse as more and more people hop onto the internet. So what we've seen so far, for people who have big enterprise MAMs and DAMs, you can move proxies around and do things like that. You can do something like a Teradici or a PC over IP, which is very similar to RGS or HPZ Central, which Keycode has deployed quite a bit. You can use remote desktop softwares, and Jeff talked a bit about the challenges of some of these. Obviously, if you're not a native Windows user and you have to go to Windows, it's another thing I have to learn. It might take away, if I'm a Final Cut editor, my ability to use the my NLE of choice on that side, which is another set of learning. We need to have business continuity, not stop, relearn, and change everything. So what we've tried to do here with some of these challenges is find a way to leverage things we've been doing for a long time. Things like craft editorial or offline editorial, whatever you want to call it, versus finish, source, leveraging proxies, getting those proxies locally so that we don't need the internet once they've moved, and then being able to leverage and use the internet at appropriate times, off-peak hours, for lack of a better term. So we don't have slowdowns during normal working hours when everyone is trying to work. A lot of these solutions also do require monthly subscription fees. Some of the things I've seen out there right now are people have waived those monthly subscription fees to get you into a system, and they've waived them for several months, out through June or July or August or November. The reality here, though, is if you start using these systems, we can't trust the benevolence of a company to say, well, this is going to be free forever. You may find yourself jumping into a solution today that's free during this challenging time, but you may be presented with a very large bill on the back end. So again, we don't want to panic. We don't want to do something now that's going to hurt our operating expenditures later. As this hopefully comes back and we start to be able to get back to some sense of normalcy, the last thing we want when we're trying to hire people back is to have a huge OpEx bill associated with those people. And then obviously the lack of Apple compatibility. So this was fairly topical, knowing I had this presentation today. I was working in my home office, and this popped up for me on CNBC. As everyone works on the internet now, as students and classes move to Zoom meetings, as we're meeting here today, the infrastructure of the United States is not easy to upgrade immediately. And it's not designed for all of us to be working remotely, and it's certainly not designed for us to be streaming media. So we're starting to see significant slowdowns. New York, if you're in Manhattan, you've seen your internet slow by an average of 24%. Cities like Austin, Oxnard, and California have slowed down over 40%. So as we go to deploy these VPNs and we go to deploy these remote desktop solutions and things that require us to have a reliable internet speed, we're kind of jumping out of a frying pan into a fire here, where we're relying on something that's being overly taxed right now. So it can be quite dangerous. And quite frankly, the more stuff like this we do, the more we're exacerbating the problem. We're not keeping that internet, free on that side. So at SNS, we try to design things that are easy to use, that are intuitive for edit, and as I said earlier, that don't have a lot of learning curves. So that brought me to kind of a very famous thing in philosophy, which is Occam's razor, which is when you're faced with two choices, two paths forward, or two solutions or reasons to a solution, the simpler one is usually correct. The less suppositions you have to make, the less things you have to suppose, the more likely you are to arrive at the right answer in the thing that happened. And so this is true with the technology today as well, as we try to work remote. By leveraging craft editorial that we've been using for 20 years or more at this point in a lot of facilities, we're using a tried and true method. We're just leveraging it in a new and innovative way. We're doing the simplest thing. We're not trying to leverage the cloud and create a whole new workflow and create a VM and create all these different things. All of those solutions have value. I'm not saying they don't work. I'm saying when I'm talking about reliability, I want something I know works. This is not the time to be experimenting. So as we come forward, Nomad provides a simpler way, leveraging traditional technology and traditional workflows, just in a better way and over a broader network over the VPN. So Nomad's a free utility that uses our EVO Share Browser Database to allow us to download either proxy material for craft editorial or source material for finish if I want to finish at home. Using Nomad alongside things like Slingshot and our automation allows us over the VPN to move files back and forth in real time. So we can leverage these tools together to create very innovative workflows with very reliable technology. Some of the benefits here, obviously, it's going to work with any application. As Jeff said, it's going to work on any operating system. Again, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're building a bigger wheel. It's going to work with Resolve. So what we're really doing here is either taking a project file or a folder of source using the proxies that exist that EVO has generated for its own asset management and repurposing those as edit proxies. We can either then kick off a conform over the VPN, or we can move a project file back to our Office server over the VPN and then leverage something like a remote desktop to initiate a conform using the hardware at the office. And again, I can't stress this enough, guys. There are no monthly fees later for this. If you buy something today, if you buy an EVO, if you buy something today or tomorrow or in the next week or month, there's no large bill that you're going to catch. All of our software is free. It's free in unlimited fashion. And again, you own it when this is all done. So here's kind of an example diagram of what might be happening. We have, in this case, an EVO back at the office. But again, this could be any storage that we access over VPN as long as there's an EVO front ending it. On that side, we have our LAN, which is where we'd all like to be working right now. But in reality, we're kind of working from home. We're having to do so and connect through a VPN. Now, EVO has been generating proxies for years. We just needed to make sure that we could use those as edit for craft editorial. And so with that, what we've done is we've actually written our Nomad utility here to download those proxies locally in one of two ways. It's user defined here. You can either drag a Premier project file in and we'll parse that project file and only download the proxies that you need for that project. So we keep the transfer time short, we get you working quickly, which is what's most important right now. The other way to do this is to drag an entire folder. So if I'm working in Final Cut, for instance, I can take a folder of the linked assets that I would have, and I can download that folder and just the proxies of that file structure. That'll happen recursively. So for those of us who work in project structures where we have a root folder and then we have maybe a media and an audio and all these other folders underneath, it's just going to grab those things. There's also a flag that in the absence of that proxy, if EVO has not generated that proxy, so if we need to work quickly, then Nomad will choose to download that source. In which case, if the source is downloaded, you can obviously conform at home and then use either Slingshot or just a simple drag and drop through the share browser interface back to the facility and relink the project there. This is not hard to set up. It is not hard to understand. And we are also offering remote training, as well as Keycode is offering remote training for any clients who choose to kind of go this route to get things working in an inexpensive and, again, timely manner. So collected files can obviously be used in any application. As I said, we can parse the Premiere project files. You can use this to transfer Avid folder structures. Avid's a little more challenging. There's a few things you'll have to do to that folder structure to get it working local, but Keycode is certainly an expert in all kinds of workflows, especially Avid. So they'll be able to help you out there. And more important, we've already transitioned a lot of clients weeks ago to this. Over 50 clients have now switched and are using Nomad. The one that was really impressive to me was Sprint. I mean, this was a 45, 50 person creative team that within 2 days, because they already had the EVO and they already had the proxies generated, transitioned their entire workforce to being remote. So it can be that quick for those of you who already have an EVO in place. So Nomad for Premiere, we've talked about this a little bit. You simply drag your Premiere project into the Nomad utility. It grabs the files and moves them locally. It names them in path so that your media links still exist. Attach the proxy once, and then you're good to go in the offline edit. If you're lucky enough to have a good VPN that's reliable, that stays connected, you can absolutely conform over that VPN as well, because the original media link is still there back to the storage at the office, and it will deliver that render either to your local machine or back to the server at the office for dissemination, depending upon your project settings, obviously. With Resolve, EVO for a long time now, for a couple of years, has been able to host the Resolve database. Leveraging Resolve, whether it be with Nomad or with Slingshot, to move that database locally and to get the associated assets locally, certainly is completely valid. We can go from here as long as your home computer can handle it, or if you've been able to bring your workstation, from the office. But this is much better as we run out of space on those drives we grabbed than going back into the office, in and out, and handing pieces of metal back and forth to each other that we're all touching with our hands. I don't particularly want to spray Lysol on my drive. It's not good for it. So this way we can do things remotely, and we can get the assets that we need to our desktops and to where we need them to be able to continue to do our jobs. So if you're already an EVO user, great, this is free. Hit support at Studio Network Solutions. Here, you can just go to support at studionetworksolutions.com. Our guides will help you. They'll help you get the utility downloaded. They'll help train you on it. As I said, this is free to all of our EVO users out there. This does not necessarily require, as I said a minute ago, that share browser proxies already be generated. We can use this to get source. We can use it to schedule file transfers at off hours when the internet is behaving well, versus in the middle of the day when it may not be. This does require an active paid support contract. This is a good time to remind everyone that EVO has 3 tiers of support from SNS. One of those tiers is the basic free tier. So if you haven't renewed your support because you haven't had to, everything's working, everything's great, we're going to need you to go ahead and renew that lowest tier of paid support to get the Nomad utility on that side. So if you're not an EVO user already, as long as you have storage in your office that can be accessed over SMB, over a standard network protocol, and I would check with your Keycode reps, check with your Keycode engineers to see if you're compatible. There are ways to do this even with more proprietary systems through a gateway. It does not matter what storage you have. You can start using Nomad with even our smallest desktop EVO for about $3,800. That would include 8 terabytes of storage, as we'll see here in a second. You can use the automations, you can use the Nomad utility to get the proxies, you can use the share browser. And again, it doesn't matter how many employees you have, the software and all of this feature set is free with any piece of our hardware. So there's no hidden fees here for you. So here we've got a little remote workflow starter kit. And as you can see in the upper left, we're going to talk about in just a second, the ongoing value. As I've said many times throughout this presentation, what's really important is that we don't make a decision out of panic right now that is detrimental to us later. So we need to make sure anything we get today to invoke or enable remote collaboration continues to have value after this is done, which is hopefully sooner than later. But this kit includes 8 terabytes of storage for $3,800, $3,799. Includes a couple of ports of 1 gig to get up onto the network, to get into the switch, to be able to start generating proxies. You can expand this with 10 gig if you want a little faster transfer speeds and things like that. You can go up to 48 terabytes in a single unit here. And this, even the $37.99 would hold 360 hours of proxy footage. So for those of you working on documentaries, things like that, where we've got, 100 hours or so, this is going to be a great fit. It's going to be able to roll right in and deploy quickly. Obviously, all of the things we've looked at, all of the hardware pieces we're going to look at today come with all of our software, again, in unlimited fashion. So we have unlimited share browser licenses, we have Slingshot, and obviously Nomad, which is what we're here to discuss. Going forward, once we get back to our facility and we can start working in a more normal path, the Desktop Prodigy has been selling for years before we needed remote editorial. And it's used for DIT. It's on set. It's very portable. It's RAID protected. It lets you log things. It helps with automated ingest when you get back to a facility to be able to set up rules to drag files in. So this isn't something we're just buying today. This is something that will have value for you for years to come. With that, the little larger one, if we're going to go be able to get into a facility, if there's somebody there to receive the unit and to have things kind of set up to get it going, we have the EVO 8-bay. This is actually a high-speed editorial server. So this little box puts out about 27 streams of ProRes 422, or about 12 streams of ProRes 422 HQ4K. So after this is over, this box can be leveraged to actually be your primary online editorial. We don't have to proxy. We can, in facility, we can go. This one starts at about 16,000, comes with 32 terabytes of storage. Which equates out to about 15,000 hours if we're just doing proxies, not source. Larger facilities, mid-sized facilities, this is a great way to go. Someone's usually in the office these days still managing the VPN and managing the network to help with all this remote editorial. If they're there, we can get this set up. And again, these RAIDs are going to come pre-baked. So we're not going to have to take an extra day or time to kind of build the RAID. We did waive that $750 fee. So this is going to come ready to go, plug and play. Just set up some training and away we'll go from there. So this is a little larger. This is our EVO Nearline. This one starts at 64 terabytes of storage, which is equivalent to about 31,000 hours of proxy storage. Comes with a couple of ports of 10 gig on here and can be scaled later up to 25 petabytes. So for those of you who have online storage in your facility but haven't yet gotten a full backup or a backup workflow on that side, later, again, once we're past this, this can be repurposed as backup storage. And in the meantime, it's the remote editorial gateway for the facility. So again, making sure that anything we do today has value forever. And with that, I would like to open it up for questions.